All right, let's jump right into this explainer. If you've been feeling like the 2026 AI landscape is moving so fast it's literally impossible to keep up, well, you're definitely not alone. The gap between new frontier models has shrunk to just mere weeks at this point. But what we're looking at today isn't just some small incremental update. Driven by the release of OpenAI's GPT-5.5 and Anthropic's Claude Opus 4.7, we are witnessing a fundamental paradigm shift in how we actually interact with computers. We're unpacking all of it today and completely reframing how you should be using AI. But before we get into the weeds with benchmarks and new capabilities, we really have to ask ourselves a pretty serious question. What happens when the smartest system in the room is also the most confidently wrong? Because as we'll see today, these models have gotten unbelievably intelligent, but that intelligence comes with a startling new set of risks that every single professional needs to understand before handing over their workflows. Listen, the absolute biggest mistake people are making right now, treating OpenAI's new GPT-5.5 like it's just another conversational chatbot. We naturally expect a smarter chat interface, but the reality is entirely different. GPT-5.5 is essentially a fast-executing project manager. It's built from the ground up for agentic tasks, long-horizon work, and multi-step reasoning. Honestly, if you're using it just to brainstorm an email or summarize a quick article, you're basically driving a sports car in first gear. So here is our roadmap for the next few minutes. First, we'll track the shift to agents. Then we'll explore the massive 1 million token workspace. After that, we'll expose the dangerous hallucination problem, check out the intense Claude 4.7 rivalry, look at the true cost of this intelligence, and finally, wrap up with the final verdict. Okay, Section 1, the shift to agents. The chatbot era is officially over. The release of GPT-5.5, which by the way was internally codenamed SPUD, sets the foundation for how we'll do computer work going forward. It's OpenAI's first fully retrained base model since 4.5, and its whole architecture is built around one specific goal: autonomy. So what does agentic actually mean? Think of it this way. Instead of you babysitting every single prompt, you can now just hand GPT 5.5 a really messy, multi-part task. Think about rewriting an entire software code base or having a law firm parse through years of emails to build a litigation chronology. The model looks at the problem, figures out the sequence of steps, uses tools, checks its own work, and carries the whole task through to completion all by itself. It's about delegating the actual workflow, not just the drafting. Moving on to Section 2, the 1 million token workspace. Ingesting the real world. Now, to do all that autonomous work, the AI needs an absolutely massive memory to hold information all at once. And context size matters. A 1 million token window is roughly 750,000 words. To put that into perspective, that's like dropping 6 to 8 full-length novels into a single prompt. You literally no longer have to chunk your data. Just think about the real-world use cases here. OpenAI's internal finance team dropped in nearly 25,000 K-1 tax forms. That is over 71,000 pages. And the model processed the whole thing in one pass. In the science field, researchers analyzed 28,000 genes simultaneously. For software, you can just drop an entire repository into the prompt to spot architectural issues. You're basically giving the AI a complete, instantly accessible universe of your data. It's wild. Which brings us to Section 3. The hallucination problem, the double-edged sword of confidence. We really need to talk about this because it's kind of terrifying. The smarter GPT 5.5 gets, the more it lies to you when it hits a wall. Think about this staggering number: 86%. On the AI Omniscience benchmark, which specifically tests what a model does when a question falls outside its knowledge base, GPT 5.5 does post the highest accuracy overall, but when it doesn't know the answer, its hallucination rate shoots up to an alarming 86%. For comparison, Claude 4.7's hallucination rate on that exact same test is just 36%. To see what this actually looks like in practice, Tom's guide gave GPT 5.5 a literally impossible logic puzzle. The correct answer was just to identify that the puzzle couldn't be solved. Simple, right? But instead of throwing its hands up and admitting defeat, GPT 5.5 completely fabricated 2 fake solutions just to please the user. It prioritized giving an answer over verifying that the answer actually made sense. So yeah, this isn't just some quirky little software bug. It carries immediate real-world danger. Using GPT 5.5 for something like legal case finding without rigorously checking its work, that can literally lead to court sanctions. We've already seen major firms like Sullivan and Cromwell having to apologize to federal judges because AI-generated, completely fabricated citations made it into their filings.
The model is incredibly capable, absolutely, but you have to treat its outputs with deep skepticism whenever fact-checking is critical.
All right, Section 4, the Claude 4.7 rivalry, the heavyweight title fight. Because remember, the AI landscape isn't a monopoly. We've got a real heavyweight battle here between our fast-executing project manager GPT-5.5 and the meticulous academic Anthropic's Claude Opus 4.7. When it comes to autonomous, multi-step agentic workflows, specifically command line tasks on the terminal, Bench 2.0 test, GPT 5.5 lends a massive punch. It hits an 82.7% accuracy rate, which just dominates Claude 4.7, who's sitting way down at 69.4%. If you need an agent to run DevOps pipelines or execute unattended terminal workflows, GPT 5.5 is for sure in a league of its own. But hold on, because Claude 4.7 absolutely fires back, winning cleanly in a different, highly critical area. On SW Bench Pro, which tests complex multi-file software engineering issue resolution, Claude takes the lead with 64.3% over GPT 5.5's 58.6%. This perfectly proves Anthropic's whole measure twice, cut once philosophy. For pure code quality and resolving deeply embedded GitHub issues, Claude is just the superior model right now. In fact, in a recent head-to-head evaluation by Tom's Guide that involved 7 impossible reasoning tests, it was a total 7-0 wipeout in favor of Claude. It won every single round. And it didn't just give the right answers. It provided simplified formulas for probability, used precise metrics for physics, identified underlying theorems in math, and used formal mathematical definitions in chemistry. It demonstrated real academic integrity, actually explaining the why behind its answers, whereas GPT 5.5, well, it kind of just rushed to a conclusion. Moving into Section 5, the cost of intelligence, paying for performance in 2026. Okay, let's break down the actual economics here, because premium performance comes with a premium price tag. GPT 5.5 doubles the raw API price of its predecessor, coming in at $5 per million input tokens and $30 per million output tokens. But there's a big efficiency catch. Because it's so much smarter, it uses about 40% fewer tokens to complete a task. So the real-world cost increase isn't quite as bad as it sounds. Plus, compared to Anthropic, GPT 5.5 is still vastly cheaper, costing around $1,200 for a benchmark index run compared to Claude 4.7's hefty $4,800. Oh, and we definitely can't ignore Google. Gemini 3.1 Pro remains the ultimate budget alternative at just $1.25 in and $10 out, making it the undeniable value and context length leader. Finally, Section 6, the final verdict, the routing playbook. So let's bring all this data, the benchmarks, the pricing, the whole shebang, together into an actionable routing playbook. Because the secret in 2026 isn't just picking one model. It's knowing exactly which model to hire for which specific job. Think of these models as different personas. You want to use GPT 5.5, our fast project manager, when you need an agent to execute terminal workflows, manage pipelines, and take actions across multiple tools entirely autonomously. You hire Claude Opus 4.7, the meticulous academic, when you need greenfield architecture, deep reasoning without hallucination, and really high-quality prose. And finally, bring in Gemini 3.1 Pro, the high-volume researcher, when you have massive, multi-million token documents to review and you're operating on a tight budget. And that brings us to our final thought. I mean, the progression here is just undeniable, right? A year ago, we were thrilled that an AI could draft an email. 6 months ago, we were absolutely amazed that it could reason through complex logic. Today, the intelligence is here, and the agents are ready to autonomously execute multi-step work across your computer. The final question you have to answer for yourself and your business is this: are you ready to stop chatting with your AI and start managing it?